The completed poetry and selected prose of John Donne. There's a huge moth in here. I'm experimenting with different lighting. Excuse me. I finished Longitude. I know a lot about clockmaking in the 1700s. Been using these disposable cameras to document my time. Maybe you'll see that photo in a few weeks. Now I'm reading Grave Error, a 1975 private investigator novel. A mystery, I suppose. Has all of the classic mystery tropes that you see in Private Eye Investigator, Pink Panther type shenanigans. You know what?
It's time for a story, it's time for a story. A very special story, especially for you.
Short story number 4. Moyer the Astronaut. Since the gravity on this barren planet was less than Earth's, Moyer's vertical jump was now 6 feet, meaning he could dunk on a regulation hoop. The Space Federation hadn't created a universal system for gravity yet, so Moyer programmed his personal measurements in comparison to Earth, where he grew up. He would dunk on a hoop, too, if there was one around. Moyer could only hear the breathing inside of his helmet. The air's arsenic level was too high to breathe freely, otherwise he would walk around without his suit. He switched on his helmet's infrared display again. If its battery life was better, he would keep it on the whole time, but since it was an older model, he only used it when necessary. The trail of blood drops had stopped a mile back, and he had to rely on the heated footprints. Still on track, he thought as he switched off the display. The terrain was rocky, plain, mountainous, and wet. The sky was an overcast and consistent gray, an endless slab of concrete. The rock he had been approaching was deceptively large. He had subconsciously guessed it to be the size of a minivan, but it was closer to the size of a big rig. The infrared indicated the tracks led around the rock. The sword on his back felt weightless as he grabbed it from the magnetic pad. The sword and nightstick, which could also be used as a flashlight, extended walking stick, and tripod, needed no holster since they were held up by the magnet. The rest of his gear stayed with his ship or was cleverly built into his spacesuit, or was in one of the little packs on his vest or belt. His sword, crafted by the tinkerer Moyer, was a custom commission. It felt like everything he chopped at was made of bubbles, the way it glided through. Moyer rounded the corner. The adult female Stein was coiled in the corner between the big rig rock and the cliff against the mountain. "Hey, darling," Moyer said, keeping the sword inconspicuous. "How the heck are you?" The Stein scraped against the rock, trying to retreat further, but Moyer could tell it was simply too tired. "I'm not here to hurt you, darling," Moyer said, approaching with measured steps while his empty hand extended in front of him as if to greet her. The 10-foot Stein snorted and shook its head like a horse. "Well, I'll be honest, this might hurt a little bit," Moyer said, grabbing the leech on the Stein's left leg and swiping down with his sword, chopping it off while hardly grazing the Stein's skin. The Stein snorted and whimpered, but only once. Moyer held up the severed 3-foot leech and studied it like it was a bunch of red bananas. He tossed it aside and looked over the Stein's leg, which was bleeding minimally now. This part might actually hurt," Moyer warned, taking out a small spray can. He sprayed it under the Stein's wound, and it shrieked, running off rather than fighting. "I had to make sure that didn't get infected," he called after her, but she paid him no mind. Moyer put his sword back and started the hike through the lonely, rocky planet. If it were dustier, it may have even been called a desert, but according to the rainfall, it didn't quite qualify. Once he made it to his ship, he took off his helmet, sat down, and grabbed his mic from the ceiling. It is, he looked at his right forearm, 14 hours and 33 minutes, Greenwich time, April 6th, 2093, on a moon in the Greeter system, named Hilga. I helped an endangered adult female Stein with a leech, sterilized the wound. Seemed like it was in good health other than some fatigue, which is why it wasn't flying. He dropped the mic and let it bounce, up and down, next to him like an automated yo-yo. He fired up his ship and headed into the sky, right through the concrete-colored clouds and into a twinkling nighttime of stars, like being inside of a gigantic marble, off to stir up some more trouble. The end. Good golly. I think I broke one of its wings, because now it's not flying very well. I don't know where he went. Hopefully not in one of my shoes. We are at 14,000 words. I think that's accurate. 3,000. Nope, it's not. Look at that. 834 words. Anyway, we at least know it's more than 14,000. That was the syrup for last week. And this is the syrup for this week. I got a new container because I know that I'm running out of this syrup a lot faster than I thought I'd be.